Saturday night was supposed to be just another boring event I didn't even want to attend. But by the end of it, everything I believed about my life was reduced to ashes. I sat downstairs in the living room, half-heartedly flipping through TV channels, while Emma was upstairs, getting ready for what felt like forever. Lately, something in my gut had been warning me, tightening like a knot I couldn't loosen. But tonight? Tonight it felt different. Heavier. Permanent. When Emma finally came down the stairs, the way she moved told me everything before her mouth could even form a lie. She wasn't walking toward me. She was gliding, smiling to herself, adjusting her earrings like she was getting ready for someone else. Someone who wasn't me. She wore this silver dress that clung to her body like it was painted on. She knew exactly how stunning she looked. And she didn't even glance at me for validation. No, she wasn't dressing for my eyes. We were supposed to be heading to an anniversary party for one of her coworkers, something I didn't care about in the slightest. I had dragged my feet, but Emma insisted. Said it was important. Said I needed to put in some effort. Once, I believed making her happy meant I'd be happy too. Now it just felt like going through the motions, like both of us were too stubborn or too scared to admit we were done. The car ride over was dead quiet, except for the soft buzz of her phone lighting up again and again between us. She didn't even try to hide it anymore, smiling to herself, typing away, her face lit up by the screen. I kept my eyes locked on the road, each little smirk she gave to her phone stretching time into torture. When we finally pulled into the hotel parking lot where the party was being held, she didn't miss a beat. Emma flipped the visor mirror down, reapplied her lipstick with delicate precision. When she opened the door, her heel caught on the floor mat, and she let out a small curse under her breath, bending over to fix it. That's when I saw it. Right there, just barely hidden under the hem of her dress, a dark smudge that wasn't small. It wasn't the kind of thing you get bumping into a table or brushing past a doorway. It was a handprint. Angry. Violent. Clear. And it sure as hell wasn't mine. The world around me shrank down to a pinpoint. The slam of car doors, the laughter floating from the hotel entrance, it all faded into meaningless noise. All I could see was that mark. And the reality that slammed into me so hard, it almost knocked the air from my lungs. Emma didn't even notice my stare. Didn't notice me at all. She just adjusted her shoe, smoothed down her dress like she was getting ready for some grand entrance, and strutted toward the hotel like she had the world at her feet. I stayed sitting there behind the wheel, my hands trembling, heart hammering so loudly I was sure people walking by could hear it. One part of me screamed to run after her, grab her arm, demand answers right there under the neon lights of the hotel. Another voice, colder, steadier, said it didn't matter anymore. The answer was written across her skin, plain as day. I followed her inside like a man walking to his own execution. The lobby was loud, glittering, packed with people I didn't know and didn't care to meet. Emma slipped away into a crowd of her coworkers almost immediately, laughing, sparkling, alive in a way I hadn't seen around me in years. And she didn't even look back to see if I was still there. I stood off to the side, clutching a drink I barely remembered grabbing, watching her. Watching how she touched people's arms when she laughed, how she leaned in just a little too close to some conversations. Touches and gestures that used to be meant for me, but not anymore. Then I saw him. Tall. Smug. Slicked back hair. Wearing a suit that probably cost more than my truck. The way Emma's whole face lit up when he approached, that told me everything I needed to know. The mark on her thigh had a name. And the night was just getting started. I stood there, drink in hand, feeling my fists clench and unclench at my sides like they had a mind of their own. Nobody else seemed to notice anything strange. Emma blended right in, all bright smiles and flirtatious little touches, while the slick-haired guy leaned in close, whispering things that made her laugh, that soft, familiar laugh, the one that used to be reserved only for me. There was no shame on her face. No guilt. No hesitation. It was like I wasn't even in the room. I threw back the rest of the drink, barely feeling the burn, and tried to steady my breathing. Every bone in my body told me to just leave. Walk out, get in the car, drive somewhere far away where I could pretend none of this had ever happened. But some sick part of me needed to see it. Needed proof. Needed to watch my life crash and burn right in front of me. I watched them, following with my eyes as they moved away from the crowd toward the elevators, giggling and whispering like teenagers sneaking off at a high school party. Emma's hand brushed his chest casually, and he said something back that made her throw her head back and laugh like she was already his. I couldn't hear what he said, but I didn't need to. I saw everything I needed in the way her hand lingered against him, in the way she tilted her head, pretending to hesitate before nodding toward the elevator doors. Together, they slipped inside, disappearing behind the shining metal doors. I stood there staring, numb, while the rest of the lobby carried on like nothing had happened. I don't even remember making the decision to move. 1 second I was frozen, the next I was stalking toward the elevators, every step fueled by the kind of rage and heartbreak that makes your hands shake. I slammed the button, waited what felt like hours for a free car. When the doors finally opened, I climbed in, jabbing the button for the top floor. Because if they were going somewhere, it was going to be somewhere private. The elevator ride was brutal. My reflection stared back at me in the polished doors, pale, hollow, someone I didn't even recognize. When the doors slid open at the top floor, the hallway was quiet, carpeted, lined with identical doors that felt like barriers between me and the truth. I moved automatically, almost like I was outside of myself. Halfway down the hall, I heard it. A soft laugh. A door that hadn't closed all the way. Room 1214. I stepped closer, my heart pounding so loud in my ears it almost drowned out the sound of her voice. Peeking through the crack, I saw enough. Emma's silver dress was slipping off her shoulder, the guy's hand already low on her back. She leaned in, whispering something that made him smirk like he had already won. It felt like my chest was being crushed from the inside out. I should have kicked the door open. Should have yelled, screamed, demanded answers. But I didn't. I just stood there like a fool, invisible, forgotten, watching the woman I thought I knew throw everything away without a second thought. For one agonizing second, Emma turned slightly, and I could see her face clearly. There was no regret there. No panic. No guilt. Only excitement. She wanted this. She chose this. That realization hit me harder than anything else. She wasn't drunk. She wasn't confused. She wasn't making a mistake. She was exactly where she wanted to be. I backed away slowly, the floor seeming to tilt beneath me. I barely made it to the stairwell before the first sob ripped free from my throat. I stumbled down the stairs, fists pounding the handrails, breathing hard like I'd just run a marathon. I didn't even know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay there. I sat in my car for what felt like hours, staring blankly at the dashboard, engine running, lights off. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly they hurt. Part of me thought about driving home and pretending none of it had happened. Pretending Emma was still the woman I married. But the image of her, that laugh, that handprint on her skin, was burned into my brain. There was no pretending anymore. I must have looked insane sitting there, because eventually a valet came over, tapping on my window and asking if I was all right. I waved him off without even looking and peeled out of the parking lot like the whole place was burning down behind me. When I finally pulled up to the house, it looked exactly the same as when we left, quiet, dark, untouched. It almost made me laugh, how normal everything seemed while my whole world had already fallen apart. I unlocked the front door with shaking hands and stepped inside. The living room, the pictures on the walls, even the stupid little bowl for keys by the door, everything was in its place. Everything was pretending life hadn't just been ripped in two. I stumbled into the kitchen, yanked open the fridge, grabbed a beer, and downed it so fast I didn't even taste it. Didn't help. Nothing could. I dropped into a chair at the kitchen table, the silence of the house pressing down on me like a weight. Across from me sat the empty chair where Emma usually curled up with her legs tucked under her, laughing at some dumb story I told. That image now felt like a cruel memory from another lifetime. My phone buzzed against the table, vibrating across the wood. I stared at it, heart hammering. It was a text from Emma. No call. Just a text. Sorry, got caught up with the girls. Staying at Rachel's tonight. Love you. The sheer audacity of it almost made me laugh. Caught up with the girls. Staying at a friend's house. Like I hadn't just watched her practically undress herself for another guy. I picked up the phone, turning it over in my hand. I didn't throw it. Didn't smash it. Instead, I opened a browser window and started searching. Divorce lawyers, private investigators, anything that could help me build a case. My hands moved automatically while my brain looped the same images over and over again. Her laughing, his hands on her, the dark handprint on her thigh. I wasn't thinking clearly. I wasn't eating, wasn't sleeping. But through all the chaos in my head, one thing stood out like a flashing neon sign. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't some drunken accident she'd cry and beg forgiveness for later. This was a choice. A cold, deliberate choice. And she was planning to come home like nothing ever happened. Maybe bring me a coffee, kiss me on the cheek, curl up in bed next to me like she wasn't carrying someone else's fingerprints on her skin. The thought sparked something inside me. Not sadness. Not grief. Rage. A slow, cold, calculating kind of rage. I wasn't going to sit there and be the idiot husband anymore. If she wanted to play dirty, fine. I could play smarter. I picked up my phone again, but this time, I didn't open her text. Instead, I scrolled down to another name, my buddy Caleb. Now, Caleb wasn't my best friend, but he was one of those guys who knew a guy for everything. And more importantly, he worked in IT security. I texted him, trying to keep my hands steady. Need your help. Urgent. You around? Took him less than a minute to respond. Always. What's up? I didn't give him details over text. Just told him I needed to check something at a hotel. A little while later, Caleb called me, his voice casual but curious. You caught a bad one, huh? I just said, worse than bad. He didn't ask questions. Didn't judge. Just got to work. By the next morning, Caleb had pulled a grainy but clear snapshot from the hotel's open security stream. Turns out the hotel had terrible cyber hygiene. Some of their external camera feeds weren't even properly protected. And there it was. Emma, smiling like he was her whole world, wrapped in that guy's arms. The picture hit me like a punch to the gut, but it also gave me something I desperately needed. Proof. Real, undeniable proof. And that was just the beginning. Morning came, but it didn't feel like a new day. It felt like standing in the middle of a battlefield, waiting for the next grenade to land. I hadn't slept. I just sat there all night, drinking bad coffee, replaying every moment of the last few years like a movie I never wanted to watch. Around 7 a.m., the front door clicked open. I didn't move from the couch. I just watched. Emma stepped inside, humming under her breath, carrying a tray of coffees and a paper bag like she was coming home from just another girl's night out. She spotted me sitting there and froze for a fraction of a second, just long enough for me to notice, then plastered on that fake sunny smile I used to think was real. Hey babe, you're up early, she chirped, kicking the door shut with her foot. She wandered into the kitchen like nothing was wrong, setting down the coffee cups and digging through the bag for a pastry. I didn't say anything. Just sat there, watching her. She wore the same silver dress from the night before, now wrinkled and carelessly thrown together. There was a new bruise blossoming under her collarbone, partially hidden by her hair. She didn't even try to cover it up. Rough night, she said, laughing lightly. Rachel's couch is brutal. My back's killing me. The sheer disrespect of it, her standing there, joking about sore backs while the truth was smeared all over her skin, was like another punch to the gut. I stood up slowly, feeling every muscle in my body coil tight. I walked into the kitchen, every step deliberate. Emma was fiddling with her phone, probably texting him, completely unaware that the man standing across from her wasn't the same fool who'd kissed her goodbye the night before. Who were you really with last night? I asked, my voice low, steady. She froze just for a second. Blink and you'd miss it. Then she turned to me, wide-eyed and innocent, like she was ready to spin the biggest lie she could find. What are you talking about? She said, laughing nervously. I told you, Rachel and the girls. God, Matt, you've been so paranoid lately. I just stared at her, letting the silence grow heavy between us. She shifted from foot to foot, pretending she didn't know why I was looking at her like that. You're lying, I said. Her laugh was too loud, too fake. Seriously? Are you really doing this right now? I'm exhausted, Matt. I don't have the energy for your insecurity games. I moved closer. She instinctively backed up a step. Predator and prey. I saw you, I said, quieter now, almost calm. I saw you at the hotel. Her face paled. For a heartbeat, she dropped the act. But Emma was quick. She recovered almost instantly, scoffing and shaking her head like I was some pathetic joke. You're insane, she snapped. I wasn't at any hotel. You probably followed some random woman around, thinking it was me. Jesus, Matt, that's sad. Her words sliced through the air like knives, each one trying to cut me down before I could strike. But I didn't flinch. I pulled out my phone, brought up the picture Caleb had found, and held it out to her. The blurry but unmistakable shot of her, wrapped around another man like she belonged to him. Her smile in that photo wasn't the smile of a drunk mistake. It was the smile of someone exactly where they wanted to be. Emma's mask cracked for real then. I saw it, a flash of fear, then something colder. Contempt. So what if I was? She spat, crossing her arms like she was daring me to hit her with the truth. What do you want from me, Matt? You want me to cry? Beg? Pathetic. Her voice was sharp, hard. There was no apology. No remorse. Only venom. I'm not sorry, she said slowly, like every word was a bullet she meant to fire straight through me. I'm not sorry because for once, I did something for me. You've been dragging me down for years, Matt. Years. Every word felt like a slap in the face. Emma brushed past me, grabbing her coffee and sipping it like we had just argued over groceries, not about the wreckage of our marriage. I'm going upstairs to shower, she said casually. And when I come back down, you better have decided if you're gonna grow up or get out. And with that, she disappeared up the stairs, leaving me standing there, surrounded by everything we used to be, now reduced to nothing. But as I stood there, something new sparked in me. Not sadness. Not even rage anymore. Freedom. Because for the first time, I finally understood. I didn't need to fix anything. I needed to burn it down and walk away. I stood there for a long minute, staring at the empty kitchen, feeling the weight of everything settle on my shoulders. Emma's footsteps thudded lightly overhead as she moved around, humming to herself, completely detached from the wreckage she'd caused. I grabbed my phone with a steadiness that surprised me. I wasn't the man she thought she could keep playing. That guy, the one who trusted blindly, forgave too easily, he didn't exist anymore. First thing I did was text Caleb. Need you one more time. Can you meet me? He answered almost immediately. Say when and where. I tossed my phone onto the table and started moving. No yelling. No smashing plates. No dramatic scenes. I packed only what I needed, wallet, charger, a few changes of clothes, all stuffed into an old backpack like I was heading off to war. I left the wedding photo on the mantel. Let her stare at it later and realize exactly what she threw away. I was just zipping up the bag when I heard her coming down the stairs, her wet hair dripping onto the towel she had lazily wrapped around herself. She froze when she saw me, the backpack slung over my shoulder. Her eyes narrowed. What the hell are you doing? She demanded, her voice sharp, cold. I straightened, shifting the weight of the bag onto my back. Leaving, I said simply. Her mouth twisted into that ugly sneer I had seen too many times when the fight started months ago. Oh, grow up, Matt, she snapped. You're seriously throwing a tantrum over one little mistake? One mistake. I repeated, almost laughing under my breath. You're still lying. Even now. She rolled her eyes so hard it was like she was trying to physically dismiss me. God, you're pathetic, she spat. No wonder he actually makes me feel alive. There it was. The final knife. She wanted me to hurt. Wanted me to break. But instead I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just clarity. You'll regret this, I said, my voice quiet, calm. She laughed, a nasty hollow sound. Yeah, right. I've been regretting you for years. I didn't bother responding. Without another word, I walked past her, out the door, and into the blinding morning light. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't running away from something. I was running toward something better. Caleb was already waiting by the curb, leaning against his beat-up old truck. He took one look at me, at the dead calm in my face, and didn't say a word. Just nodded once. I tossed my bag into the bed of the truck, climbed into the passenger seat, and we pulled away from that house without ever looking back. Not once. The drive was silent for a while, just the hum of the engine and the rush of the wind outside. Caleb finally broke the silence, tossing me a sideways glance. You want to talk about it? I shook my head. Not yet. Because honestly, I didn't even know how to put it into words. How do you explain what it feels like to realize the person you trusted the most was laughing behind your back the whole time? We ended up at Caleb's apartment, a tiny place over a dive bar he sometimes worked at on weekends. It wasn't fancy. Hell, it wasn't even clean. But it was safe. And it was far, far away from her. I crashed on his battered couch, staring up at the cracked ceiling, feeling everything and nothing all at once. My phone buzzed on the coffee table again and again. I didn't even bother checking it. I already knew who it was. Emma. No doubt spinning whatever story she thought might pull me back in. But she didn't realize something crucial yet. The man she used to manipulate wasn't breathing anymore. The next morning, before the sun even had a chance to rise, I was already up. Something inside me felt sharp now, focused, like a blade finally honed after years of being dulled down. While Caleb slept off a late shift in the next room, I quietly grabbed my backpack and headed out into the cold, empty streets. First stop, the bank. I sat across from a polite but clearly uncomfortable manager, laying out everything I needed to do. I wasn't emotional. I wasn't dramatic. Just calm. Focused. I froze every joint account Emma and I had. Savings. Checking. Even the stupid vacation fund we never got around to using. Then I opened a brand new account under my name alone. She wasn't going to drain me dry while playing house with someone else. Second stop, the lawyer. I didn't have to say much before the guy leaned back in his chair and gave me this grim little smile, like he knew exactly the kind of mess I was sitting in. "You did the right thing coming early," he said. "Damn right," I muttered. We filed the initial divorce papers that same day. No waiting. No hesitating. I wasn't giving her a head start. I didn't call Emma. Didn't warn her. Let her find out the hard way. Later, sitting at a crappy little coffee shop near the courthouse, I scrolled through my contacts. Friends. Family. People who had been there at our wedding, at our barbecues, all of it. I started sending out short, cold messages. "Just so you hear it from me, Emma cheated. I filed for divorce. Thanks for understanding." No drama. No explanations. The people who mattered would know the truth without needing a novel. And it didn't take long for the phone to light up. Shock. Support. Even a few quiet confessions. People admitting they'd seen her out with other guys, but hadn't known how to tell me. It hurt. God, it hurt. But at least now I knew. Emma hadn't just betrayed me in the dark. She'd been making a public joke out of me for months. By the time the server knocked on the door of our my house that afternoon, Emma must have felt the shift in the air. The neighbor said she answered wearing a bathrobe, coffee cup in hand, acting like she was untouchable. The server, a guy built like a fridge, just handed her the envelope with a short, "You've been served," and walked off before she could even process it. Not 5 minutes later, my phone started buzzing. Call after call after call. I didn't pick up. Texts followed. At first, confused ones. "Matt, what is this? You're kidding, right?" Then angry ones. "You blindsided me. We could have worked through this. You're ruining everything over nothing." She kept calling it one mistake. Like I should have just swallowed it down and thanked her for the lesson. The best part? She didn't know yet that I had already locked her out of everything. The accounts. The house. The life she thought she could keep floating through. Word spread fast. Mutual friends stopped answering her texts. Screenshots started rolling in. Conversations she had bragging about her options, mocking me, laughing at how easy I made her life. Turns out the guy she cheated with wasn't looking for a permanent situation either. The second she got messy, he ditched her. Poetic. I stayed quiet. No Facebook rants. No Instagram stories. No public drama. I didn't need to defend myself. Emma was doing a fine job burning her own world to the ground. Late one night, she showed up at Caleb's apartment. Pounding on the door. Crying. Begging. Caleb raised his eyebrows at me like, "You want me to throw her out?" I shook my head. I had this. I opened the door, and there she was. Emma, standing there in ripped jeans and a hoodie, no makeup, hair a mess, tears streaming down her face. For half a second, she almost looked like the girl I used to know. Almost. "Matt," she whispered, voice shaking. "Please. We can fix this. I made a mistake. I just needed to feel wanted again. You weren't there. You were always so cold. Blaming me. Even now. I didn't say a word. Just leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Waiting. She reached for me, desperate. Baby, please. Don't throw it all away. I stared her dead in the eyes. I'm not throwing anything away, I said. I'm saving myself. Then I closed the door in her face. Slowly. Calmly. The sound of her fist pounding on the wood echoed through the hallway, but I didn't reopen it. Eventually, the noise stopped. Eventually, the gravel crunched under her tires as she peeled away into the night. Alone. Exactly where she had put herself. The next few days were strange. Almost like waking up from a bad dream. I didn't go back to the house. Didn't need to. The lawyer had made sure Emma had no claim to it anymore. Meanwhile, the social fallout was brutal, but not for me. Friends picked sides fast. And the people who mattered most? They stood with me without a second's hesitation. Emma tried to spin the story, of course. Posts about growth and healing, fake inspirational quotes pasted under pictures of her out, living her best life. But nobody bought it. Everyone could see the desperation seeping through every pixel. And the guy she cheated with? Gone. Ghosted her. Deleted her from every social feed like she never existed. Karma, delivered cold. She tried calling again a few times. Left a voicemail one night, broken, shaky. I miss you, she whispered. I'm sorry. I miss us. I listened once. Then deleted it. No response. No closure. No second chances. There are some betrayals you don't come back from. Some choices you can't undo. And she made hers. I spent the next few weeks rebuilding. Slowly. Steadily. I found a little apartment downtown. Nothing fancy. But it was mine. It was honest. It was clean of all the lies. Every day got a little easier. Every morning, I woke up without that pit of dread in my stomach. Without wondering if today was the day she would break my heart all over again. There were tough days, sure. But the memories started to fade, like smoke slipping through my fingers. If there's one thing I learned, it's this. Love without respect is just a pretty prison. And loyalty to the wrong person is just another way to betray yourself. If you're out there doubting yourself, feeling crazy because you see the cracks, trust your gut. Respect yourself enough to walk away when someone shows you, with every action, that they don't value you. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't yelling or fighting. It's surviving. And building a life they'll never be able to touch again.